with water here locally. So far from the ocean, I jumped on it. And I was really lucky to be able to do that. Named my company Continuous Flow. I did purchase it, but he didn't give me the name. And so I ended up making my own, and it's got my last name in it. So I thought it was a really cool use of not only branding idea to say water continuously flows when operated properly, but also that it has my name. So did you know 71% of Earth's surface is covered by water? You know, kind of a basic one here. 60% of the human body is made up of water. So water is essential to life. Every organism, I'll do these pretty quick, I'll do it. Sure. Every organism in the world cannot survive without this beautiful stuff right here, water. Clean drinking water, really, really important. Good, next one. So I said this already, but I spent my life here. I spent my life in the middle of the ocean, fishing and enjoying all the beauty of the ocean and the water and nature. And so where that comes into play is, does anybody know, or I'll just tell you because it's complicated, but here's the process flow of how clean water gets to your home, gets to this building, gets to your toilet, your shower, right? It all starts right here with groundwater and surface water. And so even if you go to the Peachtree City water treatment plant, they will show you that it all gets pulled out of, if you don't do the tour, haven't done the tour, highly recommend it. It is fun and interesting, and it goes through this whole entire process. But basically they take water from Lake McIntosh and they process it. They clean it, they sterilize it, they filter it, they disinfect it, right? And then that goes into a water tower, which is where the storage is, and that then creates the pressure to go and be able to push out to all the residents and commercial areas here. So if you go to the next slide, this is a very controlled process, right? There's one piece in here that brings in risk. So the water company in 1987, there was the Clean Drinking Water Act. And the Clean Drinking Water Act stated that the purveyor of water, which is the water company, is responsible for the water quality. So many of you that own a home that has a water bill in your name, you'll get an annual report saying what is your water quality, right? That's a law that came out with this 1987 act that stated you need to know what the quality of water is. And what the water company wants to do is make sure that first house on the water line and that last house on the water line has equivalent quality of water, right? So what they don't want to do, the biggest part of risk, which is the next slide, is this right here. What they cannot control is they cannot control what happens when it goes from house to house to house or business to business to business on that water pipe, okay? And so that's a big problem with this entire process because they can't control it. And what they don't want is they don't want you doing something at your house that's then going to impact him who's your neighbor, right? And so what they did was they decided that, well, let me go into that for a second. The way that you can impact his water is through something called backflow. So there's something called backflow and something called back siphonage. And what happens is if somebody would come and drive and hit a fire hydrant, where's all that water? Water shoots up in the air, right? Where's that water coming from? It's not all coming from the water main. It's being pulled from each direction on that water main. So it's being pulled from your toilets, it's being pulled from your showers, it's being pulled from all of the different water sources, right, in order to be able to shoot out of that hydrant. And so what happens then is if you had something dangerous in your household or in your business, right? Let's just say there's a chemical plant, there's an airplane fuel chemical plant in Newton. Do you want that becoming your drinking water? Just because some idiot decided to hit a fire hydrant? And so what the water company does is they require you to go to the next slide. They require you to have something called a backflow preventer. So a backflow preventer is an apparatus that basically allows water to go from the city water into your household or into your business, but not be able to go back, right? Go to the next slide. And so this is a 1-inch backflow preventer. And so these on top are called test cocks. This is where I test this unit. And in here are 2 check valves. Check valve is very simple. Think about a toilet plunger, right? On that piece of wood, you're gonna have a spring. And so when water flows this way, what happens? The plunger opens, allows water to go through. If water would happen to come back the other way, the plunger closes, and it allows no water to come back the other way. It's a redundant system, so there's 2 of them, right? First one fails, you still have the second one. And so what I do is I make sure in my business that I'm testing this to make sure that it opens fully and it closes fully and there's no leakage. Because again, it's great with your household, but think about that chemical treatment plant. Do you really want that chemical flowing back? So that chemical treatment plant actually has 8 different backflows, and they're much more complicated than this. This is very simplistic. This is a residential irrigation one. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure, and the water company wants to make sure that chemical doesn't come into the water line, because you're going to make all those people on that water line sick, right? So let's kind of go through the lay of the land. So I've been doing this for 14 months now, and in 14 months I've done 2 backflows in Fayette County, right? This is not something, Fayette County, they do it themselves. A lot of times, and those 2 people were commercial properties. And so Fayette County has their own team of people that do this. The water company decided that this is their role, and so they took it on, they hired a team, give them benefits, and they do all this stuff. Coweta County went a different direction. Coweta County said, we don't want to handle this, we want to trust third parties. There's probably about 20 third parties like myself in Coweta County that does this. There's roughly, my calculation, there's about 12,000 backflows in the county. Half of those are new utilities, half of those are Coweta County water, and they require annual backflow tests. They want to make sure that that is closing tight and that no back siphonage or back flow is happening in there. And so what could possibly happen is the seal here goes bad, right? And if the seal goes bad, even though it's closing, it's not tight and it allows leakage. And we want to make sure that that's not happening, so we do annual checks. Every county is different. In Georgia, annual is pretty much the requirement. If you go to places like, I think Florida, it's every 6 months. You go places over like Washington, I think Washington does it even more often than that, Washington State. So in residence, there's not a whole lot, going back to that picture I showed, there's not a whole lot that you can do in your house unless you're going to do like they had, which is a hose into a bucket of chlorine or a bucket of gasoline. There's not much you can do in your household to impact that. So it's your irrigation system, which is the biggest problem. So if you have an irrigation system, most likely you have, or you're supposed to have, a backflow. And the reason being is that water is sitting in those pipes day in and day out, year round, and what's it doing? We in Georgia, we hate weeds, and so there's a lot of people spraying fertilizer all over their lawns. That fertilizer seeps into the lawn, seeps into the pipes, and then goes and gets backflowed into your drinking water or into your neighbor's drinking water. And so that's why they require them on irrigation systems for residents. Your commercial property is a different story. So they have one on the domestic line that's required. On the domestic line, they have one on any irrigation systems that they have. Most businesses have more than one water line because they're using it for other things. And so they would have a backflow on there too. This being a school probably has, if you look up in your head, there is fire systems. So you have a backflow on your fire system, you have a backflow on your domestic, you have a backflow on your irrigation system. So this property at least has 3 backflows that need to be tested annually. So let's take that, now we have that knowledge, what a backflow is, what a backflow does. Let's take that knowledge and transplant it into my business. So my business is Continuous Flow. We're backflow testing experts. Today, this business is my wife and I. My daughter does a little bit of work, but really this is just trying to get off the ground. And so like I said, we've had it 14 months. You go to the next slide. We've had it 14 months and 18 months, I'm sorry. That's not really right. It was, anyways, whatever. In that amount of time, I used the same backflow guy in Coweta County. I've lived in Coweta County for 18 years, and in that time I've always used the same guy. His name is Backflow Jack. Super awesome guy, but he was in his late 70s, came to my house in April 2023, and he has to go and get down on the ground in order to kind of do these things, and it was one of those things that it took him a while to get up. You know, it's one of these things. And I don't know, I just go out there and I talk to him because I like the guy. He's got great stories. Ex-military guy, Delta pilot, just a really cool guy, had cool stories. And I went out there and I'm like, Jack, if you want to sell this business, let me know. And from the ground, he looks up at me and goes, make me an offer. and so I did, and he gave it to me for literally a song and a dance. Like, it was unbelievable. I was very lucky. I'm very blessed. I really appreciate it. Great guy. He wanted to make sure that the neighbors were taken care of. Majority of his business was all within our neighborhood. We live in a pretty big neighborhood. It's like 500 homes. He did 90% of that process, those homes. And so in that time, what have I done? Right? I got certified. I'm state certified. Not an easy process. There's a proctored exam, there's a written exam, and then there's experience that you have to have before you can take this over. So that's why my 18 months is questionable, because it took a while for me to actually get ready and prepared to actually take it over. What did I do, right? I stepped in there, and he was an older gentleman. Everything was in Excel, everything was on paper, everything. He never sent an email, never sent a text message. He called every customer beforehand to make sure he was scheduling things. So that was not something that I had time for. I got a full-time job, and I also have this on the side, and I have 3 kids and lots of other things going on. So the first thing I did was I implemented technology, right? I implemented a pricing strategy. He hadn't changed his prices in 20 years. And so I was like, well, that's step 1. Let's increase that. He only had a couple businesses. He did mostly residential. The real money's in commercial, right? And so from the commercial perspective, I 10x'd the price, right, that I'm charging them. Not 10x, 5x. And that was needed because commercial's a lot more complicated. There's a lot more risk. He never had insurance. I had to go to insurance. He never was OSHA certified. I had to go to OSHA certified. There's a lot of things I had to go do in order for me personally to feel okay with doing a business's backflow. That he never did, because he only did a handful of them. So now roughly half my business is commercial, half my business is residential. I standardized his onboarding process. He did have a great customer service onboarding process, so I did copy that, but then I automated it, right? And so I use text messaging services and CRMs, and Jason's helping me set up my CRM now. Website, he never had a website before. And just trying to make things as simplistic. I started marketing, because I'm a marketing guy. So I started marketing on social media and things like that. I was able to increase our customer count by 170% in the last 18 months. So I remember, the last 12 months, I'm sorry. But if you look at just 2024, if I compare 2024 to 2023, it's 170% increase in customers, 180% in revenue per backflow. If you guys do the math correctly, that's a 300+% increase in revenue, overall revenue. And then I ended 2024 with roughly about 5% of market share in Coweta County. So that's year 1, right? And so now I've got the next 20 years to try to figure out what to do with this business, and I want to continue to grow it, and I want to ask all of you for your help, because I need to get the word out, because I really, honestly, love this business. I love it. It's fantastic. My products that I offer, I do backflow testing, I do backflow install, repair, replacement, but I also do well water testing. So I work with a lot of realtors in the area, especially in Fayette County, Fayetteville, where if you're selling a house that's on a well, it needs to be tested if you're going to get a mortgage. And so I do a mortgage test in order to get that water tested. There's very few people in Coweta and Fayette that do this, so that's another really good business. So next slide, getting to the end here. What's next? So step 1, talked to a really interesting guy yesterday. I may be able to hire him. So I'm looking for a part-time employee. Again, I work 7 days a week right now, because I'm trying to get this off the ground. I'm trying to continue to do my job and everything else. So I literally spend most of my life working. I try to do at the very least 5 backflow tests every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's more likely, like this weekend, I have 12 on Saturday and 10 on Sunday. So they take roughly about 30 minutes. So you're talking half that is number of hours. And so you're talking, I spend at least 5 hours a day on the weekends backflow testing, and then I have to process the paperwork and things like that. So
And you find time to help us in our business, which is a miracle.
I don't sleep, so that's why. Which is why the coffee is important. So the next step is hire an employee. Hopefully they'll take enough off my plate that I can start working on trying to figure out the next county. There is other counties like Griffin that does this, Cumming does this, Atlanta, DeKalb, they all do this as well. And so there's a lot of expansion opportunities that I can replicate my model and bring it over there, and then add a new product line. So going back to that other slide, you don't have to go back, but if anybody has any idea of like water quality businesses out there that are for sale, or that have a owner that is a baby boomer that's looking to retire in the next 5 years, I'd be really willing to talk to them about, working for them and eventually, purchasing their organization. But anything like lake water testing, which is a big business around here, any neighborhood that has a lake, there's lakes that have to, lake health is important. But anything water related is really where I kind of want to stand on and continue to grow that as my why. Yeah. And so that's it. That's the end of it.
So, David, what can we as a community do for you?
All right, so I came prepared. Awareness, right? Just helping me as like me speak about this is helpful. But also being able to just, if you live in Coweta County, know anybody in Coweta County, have any business owners here in Fayette County that have backflows, then it would be really helpful to help me expand my business. I go through all of that stuff, and I just want to make sure that you guys understand, like, I'm still the cheapest in the county. I'm not an idiot that bought this guy's company and then tripled prices to screw people. It's not my business. I take care of everybody. Literally got a call yesterday. One of my neighbors had a leak in their house, had no idea how to shut their water off. So I spent my time in a FaceTime, because I was in Fayette County, on FaceTime walking her through how to shut her water off. So I'm there to help people. I'm not there to screw people in any way, shape, or form. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a question, but if
Yes.
you finish, I don't want to interrupt you. I just was getting in line.
Aaron wants to be at the front of the queue.
So awareness is important, right? I really would like to be, and I don't know what the word is, but like the de facto, like if you think of, hey, I need my air conditioning just broke, who am I supposed to call, right? Everybody has a name in their head. I want to be that name. So I don't know if it's billboards, I don't know if it's radio spots, I don't know if it's advertising on the Citizen, whatever it is, I want to be that name that you think of when you think backflow. You get that letter in the mail that says, hey, your backflow needs to be done within the next 30 days. You need to call me. And then the other thing is product expansion. I asked this already, but what products do you think I should get into? What other services? And then do you know anybody who has locally owned water-related companies that are possibly for sale, or want to talk about that?
So where do you find this? Is this the big piping thing that's on the side of the house, or is this the thing that's in the ground?
It's in the ground next to your water meter.
Okay, so the thing when they have
It's
the
in
metal
the,
cover
it's in the ground
over it?
under, next to your water meter. The metal box is typically your water meter, next to it's a plastic green box, that's your backflow.
Okay, so when Fayette said they're gonna have employees do it, do they just put it into the bill for water,
Yes.
right? Okay, and so so then in Coweta, is it kind of like how we do our trash, where there's authorized people and everybody just, okay.
So there's a state list. I'm on the state list, and so you go to GWWI, state backflow testers, and then you search by your city, and it shows all state certified
Yeah.
backflow testers.
So something, a suggestion for potential advertising, I think it's EMC, like different people get their powers from the co-ops. The co-ops usually send out a newsletter, or they have that magazine that they send out every year where they talk about
It's a really good
Coweta
idea.
Fayette and the kids that got to go to that
That's a great
scholarship.
idea.
This is being recorded. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so something like that, because they know they have to pick their power, right? And, I don't see any trash people sending out stuff, but they send out things.
Yeah.
And I actually have my, whatever it called, sitting in, my magazine rack.
That's a really good idea, I like that. It's very local, very specific to the region. Yes.
What neighborhood are you in?
I'm in Harbor Springs.
Have you talked to Summer Grove?
I haven't talked to them, but I have a lot of business in Summer Grove. So whoever, not to talk bad about anybody, but most of the Summer Grove, the backflows I've done are in really bad shape. Really bad shape. Whoever's doing them is not turning them off correctly, and they're breaking the handles. And so I would, they do, and I don't know anybody at the HOA. I would love to speak with someone at the HOA. Yeah,
Talk
that's
to me about that.
Okay.
Also, some of the smaller towns in Covington County, like Turin, my
Mhm.
dad's on the city council there.
Oh.
So they are always talking about water. So.
Go into
you
those
might
meetings.
just- Yeah, and just maybe
Okay.
even get on the agenda and present.
That's a really good idea. Okay, thank you. That's good. Yanni was next.
I kind of wonder, isn't it a requirement that supposed to come from the county and kind of, make you do that instead of you initiate it yourself?
So here's the process. The process is you get a letter first. If you're okay, so the due date is typically the date that backflow was originally turned on. So the very first time that was tested, that becomes your due month. That due month is, let's say it was January. On January 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, you get either an email or a letter in the mail from the water company saying you need to do this and you have 30 days to get it done, right? And then that is when the fire sale goes, because people are like, oh my God, this scam across, I hate this. Most people who move from out of town, they all call me and say, is this a scam? Because they just think that this is another way the water company is trying to screw you to get more money.
But we never got it. We live here for 4 years. we never
You
got it.
wouldn't if you live here.
Yeah,
If you live in
I
Fayette
said
County.
32 years.
He lives in Sharpsburg, which is Coweta. So, but I can just tell you, same thing.
Right.
I had never heard of backflow testing before.
Yeah.
But then I hired a landscaper to come and install some crepe myrtles and some other bushes, and he put in a drip line. And he never mentioned to me that I was gonna need this backflow testing. But now all of a sudden I get this letter in the mail, and I'm like, what is this? And it was right about the time that we had just first met. I don't know why I brought it up to you. But like, that's how this world works, right? Like, everything just, it was amazing. So, I mean, it was the next day or something. He comes over, actually, you brought your son and your daughter, they're in the truck, she's working, they're doing paper. I mean, it was like incredible service. I didn't know even what to compare it to. I thought it was a very reasonable price. And now I know that I need this done every year. Am I ever going to think about it? Never. But I'm gonna get that letter in the mail, and hopefully David's gonna be ahead of that letter arriving so that he can already have that appointment scheduled to come back out and do it again. Or even auto. I just want you to come every year.
Yep.
Just like my HVAC people come twice a year, I don't wanna think about it. I don't even need to schedule it because I don't even have to be home.
Yep.
Because you're on the street.
Yep.
So one less thing to worry about. So this whole CRM that we're setting up will have all that sort of automation stuff involved, reviews, so people can leave reviews and get all that populated. His website will have the chat bot. Like, we're starting to do some of that stuff. But what I'd really like to hear from all of you is more of where he should be showing up and what would matter. In what I just said, I heard myself, you need to also get involved with landscapers.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're putting in an irrigation system, it should come along with a card of yours that says, here's the guy to call, like, because this is what you're gonna have to do next year.
Try to give them a referral fee.
Yep.
Yeah, even better, which you can also track.
Well,
for-
they all need to test it the first time, so maybe I can just test it for free the first time.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
I would even go as far as like trying to regulate it with the counties, making sure that whenever it's necessary by law, I guess, they give a list of all the.
They do.
Because
They
you
do.
say that there are not many of you around here, so it's you and what,
20
five?
people.
Let's say
There's 20 of them.
20 of them. Still good chances of working out of 12,000 back units. You know, what do you call them?
It's backflow units.
Back, yes.
Assemblies.
So it's great. Divided by 20 of you, it's great business.
How did you come up with that number? That feels very low.
I asked the Coweta County
Why
guy, he
wouldn't-
told me 6,700.
Why wouldn't every resident have that?
Not every resident has an irrigation system.
Right.
Oh, it's only if you have any irrigation.
In residence.
Which is why
yes.
Yanni hasn't ever heard of it or never
Right.
gotten a letter. That was
Yeah.
my.
Oh, so it's
I forgot about
only
that.
if you have an irrigation
For
system?
residents, yes.
How about
for
the backup of
commercial.
the whole house? Like, how does it have another device?
It has an untestable unit that's on the
Oh, okay.
meter. They're not as concerned about it because the likelihood of you having some kind of poison in your house that's gonna flow back is very unlikely. Like literally, I would have said, you'd have to have a hose connected to a bucket of chlorine or gasoline or something like that. Who really has that, right? And so there's just less likelihood, so they're playing the odds.
I just went blank on her name, but Flying Locksmith.
Yeah, Lana.
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 Yeah, I was like, Lana's, I don't want to say it out loud. Anyway, she's got all kinds of commercial businesses. Partner up with her. Ask her how you can collaborate,
Mhm.
right?
That's another
It's a
great
good idea.
You know what I mean? Because she's all over the South Atlanta, I guess, but,
Yeah.
and all over, but, you know,
Yeah.
she's got, I know
She's
where her
awesome.
targets with
I like her.
Starbucks and things like that, right? So
It's a good idea.
she gets them as the franchises, the corporate sends it down, so.
It's a great idea. I like that.
And then you asked about like what other businesses.
Yeah.
How about filtration for homes? Like, is that something you want to get into?
It's a
Like
good idea.
filters?
I haven't done it, but that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I know someone.
You know somebody? He does filters?
He sells the filters for the home, and they have this whole, I don't know if he just started doing it, I think a few months ago. But he's selling the filters for the whole house, like the big.
Does he
things.
install them as well?
And then, no, someone comes and install it.
Okay.
But he has the whole information, so I can
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, that's awesome.
I'm interested in that and as a service for you, because like my wife has been complaining, we went to Florida and her hair and her skin and everything was better. We were in New Jersey, her hair and her skin was better.
Yeah.
We come here and her skin is cracking like crazy, and I'm like, I don't
Ardor.
even know what.
You have ardor.
Well, like my parents used to have this salt thing, like maybe we need to look at that, but I haven't even begun to do research. I would much rather trust you as my water guy.
All I know is these guys, they also supply you with a lifetime long of soaps and shampoo and conditioner and
Wow,
everything.
really?
And it's
That's a nice
all
bonus.
like,
Wow.
like
Yeah, definitely
all
need to
free of
check.
stuff, like no sulfates, no anything, like it's all
Wow.
safe,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want that.
Chef, you were gonna say something?
They should be up here.
No, we spoke to it.
Okay. Yes, Ron.
I live in Sharpsburg. My neighbor just put an in-ground pool,
Mhm.
and should I be worried?
No, why?
I've lived in my house for 24 years, and I never even heard about having a backflow, to your point.
Mhm.
How do I find out
If
what
they're
the status
testing.
is? Is that, and is the charge, did you say?
Do you have an
goes through
irrigation
the
system?
water company?
Do you have an irrigation system?
I have one, I don't really use it.
Okay, you may be grandfathered in if your house was, at a certain point in time, this program started 20 years ago. And so if your house is older than that, you may have been able to get away with not having one.
But it seems important that I do have one.
Yes, it is, it is.
So how do I get that process started?
Okay, I can work with you. Are you Coweta County or New Utilities?
Coweta County?
Coweta County, yeah.
Yeah, this is scary.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of your question that I'm curious about is how can you as a neighbor know if your neighbors are actually doing what they're
That
supposed
was-
to do, and what happens if they don't?
So if they don't, the water gets shut off.
Wow.
They have 30 days to get the test. After 30 days, they get a 15-day
Well, there's the
period. And after that 15-day period, the water gets cut off.
So does the city, the
If the
county-
city knows that they have a backflow.
but
I'm
they-
telling you, I
but they
almost threw
weren't
that
right
away.
on
I
the pool
forgot
slope,
it.
they have to
I
have.
didn't-
Not for pool.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes you get the
So
sick.
pool is,
I had no idea.
chlorine, you'd have to consume a lot of chlorine in sick. Right, so the likelihood of that backflowing, you literally have to have a hose in there, right? And then you have to have an event like the fire hydrant thing happen and then pull that pool water back into the water system. But that hopefully will be able to
Is that a big job to do?
adding a backflow.
Yeah.
It's like $500.
You had a question?
So I had a few things I started to write notes. So it sounds like you need like education for homeowners. When I think about your constant clients, I thought about my the guy who does like my pest control for termites. When I built my home, he came and put like he did the treatment, and then it's like this. It's just year in year out. I don't think about it. It's just boom, they come. So when you become a new homeowner, they send you out this packet of information. I guess they get your information from when they file your information at the office.
MLS.
Right, and so you could just do that, like you literally, and have it more of an informative thing, like, hey, you're a new homeowner, let me
That's
tell you about
great idea.
this.
Yeah.
And then,
That's a
once
great
they
idea.
do it at that point, because that's when you're paying attention to everything, they'll
And
sign
you're
up
already
for your
spending so much
service.
money anyway,
Right,
so you just
exactly.
sign
So
up
you
for it.
sign up
Yeah.
for it, and you're just locked and loaded, so I think that would be a good
That's
idea.
fantastic.
The
Yeah,
other,
that's advertising.
the other thing, as far as the expansion business, so I'm on well water, and all this stuff scared the crap out of me, and I was like, thank God I'm on well water. But well companies, like the guy who comes to fix my well, you guys, I have 2 old guys that come, and they're awesome, but when you talked about kneeling down and all that and I was like, God, they're not gonna live past me. When you think about partnerships, right, and expanding your business, I know well water doesn't need a backflow, but it's in the kind of same groove.
So what you do need is.
But you need that well water
You
tested.
need the well water tested. And
Right.
you also need at a certain point in time, a lot of people put chlorine down the well to clean out all the
Once a year.
bacteria and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So that's something that you I could also take over, right?
Right.
So say you doing it, you know, say if you're 90 years old, you know, if they don't want to walk out there to the well or
Right.
to the top and pour bleach down there, so that would be a good service. I like that.
And then the last thing I was gonna tell you is when, the land was just, before we took down any trees, we worked with, UGA and Griffin Free.
Like, UGA does the testing for what I
Okay, I was just gonna say you should partner with them,
Yep.
because they were great.
So I did have a question for everybody. How many people have a tankless water heater? Okay, question for y'all. Did you know you have to descale that annually?
Yes.
Do you actually go and do that?
Same with
You
your-
do?
I don't want to.
Do you do it yourself?
My husband does.
Okay. So that was the other thing I was thinking about.
Yeah.
I was thinking about adding
I
that
would pay,
as a
I would
service.
pay,
I would pay.
I don't have one, but even my Keurig, I'm not saying that I would hire someone, but I'm saying how I don't
Please
do
pay me
it.
to do that for you.
I'm just saying how I don't do it. The point is, I know it needs to be done and I don't do it. If I had a tankless
I
water
agree.
heater, I'd be in the same boat. I would absolutely pay someone to
So
come.
the challenge with that is it has to run for like 45 minutes. So it's like, what am I doing? I'm sitting in your house, in your bathroom, you know what I mean? And so that's the one thing I'm trying to get my brain wrapped around.
Just charge
But that
for
is
it.
absolutely,
Just charge for you sitting there for 45 minutes.
or a trip, you know,
Yeah,
trip
do
out
my
for that.
neighbor's
Yeah,
charge
but
me down that.
but if you have them also as a backflow tester, can you be doing that at the same time?
Good.
And you
So now, if
probably-
somebody has a septic tank, do they have to have this same sort of thing? 'Cause
A
it
septic
seems
tank
like-
has nothing, that's sewage.
I know, but it's still connected to the water system.
It's the other
They're the
end.
two separate systems.
No,
One's,
those are different.
yeah, one's supplying water, the other one's the.
So the pump,
drain.
the sump pump keeps it from backflowing.
Yes, well, your septic can dump back into your house, right?
Right, that's what I'm
With
saying.
an overflow, but it can't get from there to into the water system.
Yeah. They go.
Does the part-time employee have to be certified as well?
Yeah, so I need, for him, he's gonna do a ride along with me this weekend, but for him, he, has to go get certified and then if I hire him, and then, I have to actually, insure him and everything as well, so. So it's not anybody off the street, and he had to be 18 years old, and he had to have a long process and stuff, so it's a unique person. I was thinking a firefighter, because a firefighter is great, because they have a lot of time off, during the week, but he has a very similar job where he works long hours, but he has a lot of days off throughout the week. And then I think they give him the last 7 days of the month off as well, so he's kind of a perfect person for the job.
You have a question for Mark?
You talk about certification, is there a license, state license required?
Yes. Yeah, so certification license, same thing. So I'm state certified. You have to get re-state certified every 3 years and do
And so you have to
continued
do a certain
education along
amount
the
of
way.
training and things like that.
Yeah, because things change, right? The way you test. And when I tested, the way I tested is different than the guy I bought it from. So when I was doing my ride along with him, before I took the business over, he was testing in a way I wasn't taught how to do it. So it's like, it wasn't even,
And have you looked at anything as far as people who have sprinklers, the other things that they commonly have? Any statistics or
so
anything
the
about?
weed control is the thing I can think of.
And we get that.
Right, weeding a house, like, because I'm sitting there at your yard, I'm looking at your yard, and I can say, hey, if you got bad weeds, maybe I can sell you weed. I don't know, that's the only thing I thought of. I don't want to get into like lawn maintenance or anything like that, but I could partner with a lawn maintenance.
I really like your mission of water in your life, like just focusing on water. I don't know that I like the idea of trying to expand into other products that are removed from that, but I love the idea of a water filter system, you know, the soft water, like that whole thing. I think that's a great avenue. And then to be able to do like descaling, that's great on the tankless water heaters, and filling that time with either other neighbors, because you're already trying to plan out your routes the best you can anyway, but to do their backflow testing while you're waiting the 45 minutes for it to run. I mean, there's so many ancillary services you could be servicing one home for in the same time frame that I think makes a lot of sense.
And when I met you originally, and your community focus, I had this thought of, well, I hand everybody a piece of paper, right, with their invoice or whatever on it. Why not, like, when you go to Kroger, there's advertisements on the back, right? Why not have a consortium of, I've got a friend who's a landscaper, a friend who's a this, a friend who's a painter, a friend who's a roofer, right? And we all resell each other's services. So when I give you an invoice, it has their businesses on there. And now I'm pitching them, so then likewise they're pitching me to the people that they're doing
So
business with.
Miss Doris back
You don't
there
think?
had suggested, you wouldn't do that? Well, here's an idea though. So Miss Doris had suggested that we create some kind of like a directory of all of us so that we all know who each other does, because you know, this isn't, for the newbies in the room, this is a very different structure of networking. Like I want you to all network, but it's not always about like, hi, I'm Jason, this is what I do, here's my business card, right? I want you to connect outside of here. So putting together a directory, I just happen to own the domain name iknowpeoplewhodothings.com. So I'm thinking that I'm going to populate that with all of you, and you can advertise that domain name on the receipt at the bottom, and just say, you know, I know people who do things, you might want to, you know, leverage my network.
I like that, Brandon.
David, I think that I don't have an irrigation system. However, this is real interesting to me, and it's just something I just would never ever think about. And so I feel like if you did an educational campaign, I don't think I'm the only one. I think this is stuff that affects everybody, especially homeowners, but we just don't think about it. I have to descale my tankless water heater. And until you just said it, I was just like, oh heck yeah, I'd outsource that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if you educated people through a marketing campaign,
Realtors.
whatever, I think that could be, I think a lot of people don't do this stuff and it can be beneficial for you just because of ignorance. They just don't know.
And it's a hassle.
And it's
You
a
get that
hassle.
letter, you're scrambling,
Yeah, it's
right?
another stressor.
And there are so many things that they can do with water. Like for example, a lot of people don't know that during these frozen days, you have to disconnect your hose, you know, outside the house. Otherwise, the pipe can explode. Or that if you have an RV, you have to drain all your water from the RV, because that can damage your RV big time. You know, like people don't know these kind of things. So you can be the one source knowledge and services for water in this area.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I started a business recently, and I've pretty much been helping people do whatever they need to do. So what Jason was talking about with the, I know people who do things. My dad taught me how to do everything. I work in construction, and I fix a little bit of everything around the house. So there's about 6 ladies in my subdivision, older ladies that call me for everything. And over the holidays, I mean, I was hanging blinds, Christmas decorations, painting, pressure washing, I mean, you name it. I was doing that around my part-time job. And what I realized is another neighbor of mine, he referred me to some people in his group, and I was getting calls like, I mean, just crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah,
So
love it.
I may have to get on that list and just put my info, but it's something new I'm starting.
Are you trying to stay in just Coweta County or other counties too?
So when it comes to a job like this, right, travel is really a killer, right? So if you've got 5 backflows to do and they're all in the same neighborhood, I can get them all done in 2.5 hours. But you're talking about now I have to drive to Snow Whale, I have to drive to, you know, DeKalb, right? Yes, you make more money, but you're spending all that money in time and resources, right? So ultimately, for me, staying in Coweta and increasing my market share would be ideal. Depending on how this, if I hire somebody, if I can replicate that and say, hey, in DeKalb I'll hire somebody, in Cumming I'll hire somebody, that would be, but I could not handle it myself, and the person I'm potentially hiring couldn't handle it either. Now I do have a couple things, like I go to Atlanta for big companies that I do, and I'll do that because it's good money, but it's a whole day, right? You're literally there the entire day because you've got an hour drive and you got an hour drive back and then all tests and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things that, yes, it would be ideal ultimately if I had a team of people, but for me personally, it's just, I said, I got a call when I was with him the other day, and the guy wanted me to go to 3 locations in Atlanta. It just wasn't worth it.
What I was kind of getting to is it's a super, super small touch point, but kind of like what Drew was saying about like the education, just educating people and getting your name out. I was gonna reference parades. I don't know if Coweta County does any parades,
Oh,
but
they do.
Peachtree City does parades. And if you find out when the parades are, get your name, put it on the calendar, when the application opens.
Love it.
Get your little mini water bottle, like,
Yeah.
hey, is your water safe? And hand it out to
Oh
really
my
hot,
goodness.
thirsty people.
You are
So,
genius.
I did a parade for 4 years.
That is
So,
fantastic.
I did a parade for 4 years to increase enrollment in my child's Mandarin Chinese program back in Minnesota. So I built the whole float and everything, and that's how I got kids in the classroom.
That is awesome.
Parades.
Yeah, Noonan does at least 2 parades that I do.
But other counties too,
Take a great
if
turnout,
you're
and
wanting to
the
branch
roads
out,
that
but
are going
otherwise,
down are
no.
sometimes no more than a pickup truck with a banner on the side. So, you know, it would be great to stand out, but you don't even have to
Bottled
do that.
water.
Bottled
Mini
water.
ones,
I like
super
that.
cold.
I like that. We had my brother-in-law. He manages a football team down in Tampa, like a rec team, right? He's like the president of the board. Doesn't get paid any money doing it, but he had a dentist that bought all the water, put his label on every single water. So now anybody goes and buys $1 water. It's Florida. It's super hot. Everybody's buying water. It has the dentist's information on it. I always thought that was awesome. He has like a storage unit with just water. Like, I mean, this guy gave him 10,000 bottles of water with his name on it. It's pretty cool. Yes.
Okay, so an idea about handling the expansion part, since there's a period of time that somebody has to kind of apprentice and before they can be licensed and they have to pass all that stuff. You know, there's a lot of younger people that are looking for alternative careers and they might want to have their own, like grow into having their own business. So instead of franchising, what you do is you set somebody up, they go through, you know, you believe that they're gonna do the job and give them the equipment and they are underneath your umbrella.
Yeah. So I'm doing all the marketing, advertising.
Right, and
Contacts,
then,
yep.
once they get certified, then they start to earn out to be their own, but you keep a
That's
percentage
interesting.
of their revenue.
That's interesting.
So they're paying out of their revenues that they're generating, and they're also responsible for helping to market, because it's gonna be in effect an extension, they're gonna become more and more of the revenue as they grow their business, and you just keep a percentage over time on that,
That's
because you set them up.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to approach it. I never thought of it that way.
I worked with a guy doing that for HVAC in Florida.
And it's not considered like a franchise. It's more of a.
It's kind of like a license, kind of a thing.
Almost like a
General
marketing
contracts,
kind of
generally.
thing. Almost.
You know, yeah, but because, you know, in HVAC, it's really, you have to have, it's the same thing. You've got to apprentice for 6 months before you can have your own license. And there's a lot to do with so he has the truck with the name, you know, then it eventually transitions, but he's buying them the car and the equipment, because they can't buy that stuff themselves up front. And they're paying all of that off, and then once it's all paid off, they keep enough for themselves to make a living, right? But over time, they figure that you have to figure out your numbers, but, right? And then after they're done, he just keeps a small percentage of their revenue, you know, under some negotiated
I
thing.
may want to talk to him if that's possible. I think
Yeah,
that's
we know
very,
how
very
to set
interesting.
that up.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Well, it is 10:15. I think this has been incredible. I am going to cut off the recording so that I can just kind of start wrapping up. But by all means, stick around, keep talking,
Thank you
network.
all.
And thank you all for coming. I'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.
I have one call.